All right, let's get into a really fascinating story today. It's all about what happens when a super smart piece of tech goes head-to-head with a very, very human problem: trust. This is the story of a global company, a sophisticated AI, and the absolute chaos that happened next. So, our two main players here are Unilever, one of the biggest consumer goods companies on the entire planet, and a group of researchers from the University of Twente. They teamed up to tackle this huge operational challenge using some pretty cutting-edge machine learning.
But here's the kicker, the thing that makes this story so wild. The very tool they built to make their forecasts better, this predictive AI, well, it ended up getting so much pushback from employees that it actually made their predictions less accurate. So how on earth did a tool designed to fix a problem end up making it so much worse?
Okay, so first let's get a handle on the problem Unilever was even trying to solve in the first place. Because the stakes here, they're massive.
I mean, just look at the scale we're dealing with. This is a company with a 51 billion euro turnover. Their products, everything from soap to ice cream, are used by 2.5 billion people every single day. When you're operating at that level, even the tiniest little mistake in a prediction can cost you a fortune.
And the real headache is trying to forecast demand when you run a promotion. You put something on sale. If you guess too low, the shelves go empty, your customers get annoyed, and you just lost a bunch of sales. But if you guess too high, now you're stuck with warehouses full of stuff you can't sell. It is a constant, high-stakes balancing act.
So, Unilever did what any big, forward-thinking company would do. They co-developed a tech solution, a predictive model powered by machine learning. The idea was simple, right? Automate the whole process. Let the machine crunch all the data and get way more reliable forecasts for their thousands of product promotions. On paper, it was the perfect fix.
Yeah, on paper. But see, technology is only half the battle. The other half is all about the people who actually have to use the thing. And that, my friends, is where it all started to go wrong.
And boom, right away, you see this huge disconnect. From way up top, management was looking at the big picture, right? The overall total forecast. And from that view, everything looked great. The model was a success. But down on the ground, the actual employees who were managing individual products, they saw a tool that was getting it wrong constantly, at that super detailed, item-by-item level.
This image really lays it out perfectly. The model was way more accurate at the very top of the pyramid, that big aggregated number. But that number isn't all that useful to the person whose job it is to make sure there's enough of one specific kind of shampoo in stock. For them, down at the nitty-gritty level, the model was less accurate, which is exactly where they needed it to be the most helpful.
And the research paper just spells it out. It says users didn't trust the model's output because, from their point of view, it just didn't work. Simple as that. It wasn't making their jobs any easier or more accurate, so why would they trust it?
And this lack of trust, it had a totally disastrous ripple effect. The employees started seeing this AI as a black box. Some mysterious system that just spits out answers without explaining how it got them. So they started fighting back. They created their own workarounds, they'd manually change the data to match what their gut was telling them, and by doing all this, they were actively sabotaging the very system that was supposed to help them. It was a mess.
So, this of course led the researchers to launch a full-blown investigation. They had to get to the bottom of why this incredibly promising technology was failing so spectacularly in the real world.
Their analysis zeroed in on three key areas. It wasn't just about the model itself. No, they looked at the whole ecosystem. First, was the right data even available? Second, was the quality of that data any good? And third, how is the forecasting model itself actually working? And this right here, this is the big aha moment. This fishbone diagram they created shows that it wasn't just one problem, it was this crazy tangled web of issues. You had problems with data, problems with the process, problems with the model. Everything was interconnected, all leading to that one central problem. Nobody was accepting the forecast. And when they drilled down, they found some serious flaws. For starters, the user interface was clunky. There were no quality checks, so bad data could just flow right in. On top of that, they were pulling data from all these different places, which just made things more complex. And maybe the biggest issue, the users had no clue how the model's logic worked. So of course, they fell back on what they knew, their own experience and gut feelings.
So now that they had a really clear picture of what was wrong, the study came up with a solution, and it was surprisingly human.
You see, the recommendations weren't about building an even bigger, more complicated AI. No, it was the opposite. They focused on three really practical things, all about building trust. First, simplify the model so people could actually understand it. Second, improve the user interface to make it easy and intuitive. And third, create a dashboard so everyone could see what was going on. Total transparency.
And here's what that looked like in practice. This is a shot of the new dashboard. Instead of some mysterious system, users now got this super clear work list. It would flag any promotions that had missing or incorrect data. It basically gave them the power to fix problems before they happened, turning them from enemies of the system into its caretakers.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? The real solution here wasn't about better math or a fancier algorithm. It was about better communication. It was about building a bridge between that technology black box and the person who actually had to use it and trust it every day. Which brings us to the final, and I think the most powerful lesson from this entire case study.
Get ready for this, because this is where the story just delivers this incredible punchline. Check out the math here. By making the model simpler, they actually accepted a 2% drop in its raw technical accuracy. But, and this is the amazing part, because that simpler model was easier to trust and use, it led to an 8% improvement in data quality. So what's the net result? A 6% increase in real-world forecast accuracy. Just think about that. A technically worse model actually performed better in reality. And at the end of the day, this whole case proves a lesson that is so important right now. The goal of technology, especially in a complex business, isn't to replace our judgment. It's to build tools that work with us, tools that boost our skills and empower us to make smarter decisions.
So I'll just leave you with this one final thought to chew on. When we're talking about AI and automation, what actually makes a technology the best? Is it the one with the most complex code and the highest score on some technical test? Or is it the one that people can actually understand, trust, and use to do their jobs better every single day? This story seems to suggest the answer is a lot more human than we might think.